Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a funky feel-good Friday. How's everybody doing out there in the capital city? We're so glad to be with you on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. We got moving parts of the cast today, but the gang will all be here at some point. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is here for the first hour before he heads out to Kansas City for Washburn women's basketball at the MIAA tournament. We hope that their quarterfinal round game fares better than the men did yesterday after the number 4 team in the country was upset by the number 8 seed, the MIAA tournament. Washburn women taking on Nebraska Kearney in the 4-5 game tonight. Washburn, the 5 seed, UNK, the 4. Pre-game coverage at 5:45 and the tip-off from Municipal Auditorium set for 6 o'clock. Brendan will have the call over on our sister station. Your home for the Ichabod's Country 106.9. Myself, I will be off to Seaman High School for the 580 Preps Road to a Championship. We've got another doubleheader coming your way tonight on the Road to a Championship. Get started with pregame at 5:40, so you can infer we're cut short a little early on 580 Sports Talk today, but 5:40 pregame, 6 o'clock tip-off from Seaman High School. It's a 5A West girls basketball sub-state final. The number 1 ranked team in the class, the defending state champions, Seaman Lady Vikes, taking on the Capon Mount Carmel Crusaders. Myself and Larry Latimer with the call. Game 2 of our doubleheader will send us out to Blue Rapids, where our guy, former summer intern Trenton Craxner, will be standing by for pregame coverage as Rossville's boys take on Mauer Hill Mount Academy. Number 5 Ravens, number 6 Bulldogs in the Class 2A top 10, according to the KBCA, vying for a trip to Manhattan for the 2A boys state tournament. Trenton will have the call as soon as we're done at Seaman High School. A doubleheader for you tonight as tickets to state are punched on the 580 Preps Road to a Championship.
You ever been to Blue Rapids?
I have not, no.
Me either.
Yeah.
Never been.
It's north of Manhattan is my understanding.
You are correct. Yeah, way up there, just south of Marysville. Just east of Waterville.
Now, I have been to Marysville.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of the famed black squirrels while I was there, but I did call a high school playoff football game up there.
I have never been to Marysville. I called a basketball game featuring Marysville one time.
Okay.
Never been to the town itself. Have not been that far north in that chunk of the state.
They've got one of those old, Works Progress Administration high school football stadiums.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, built into the side of a hill.
Love that.
Homer Hansen Stadium. One of my favorites in the state, honestly. They've done some renovations on it. Looks really nice.
Shout out to the WPA.
Yes. Shout out to WPA. Shout out to the good people of Marysville, Kansas. Neat little town. It was very cool looking. The picture you have in your head of small town USA, yep. Marysville is it, man. And the great football stadium. Wasn't a great visit there for my Colby Eagles at the time, but yeah,
that's a long trip.
That was a long trip.
God damn.
Yeah. Marysville was in the West in Class 3A back then. So not that long ago. So we've got a full night of high school basketball coming your way. Brendan's got Washburn basketball right up until 5:40 today. We have got 580 Sports Talk, and we are excited to talk about the big news of the day. That's right, it's the NHL trade deadline.
Mikko Rantanen, did he end up getting moved?
He did.
Okay, yeah, Dallas.
Yes.
Brad Marchand, Florida Panther.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Is he still good? He was good 10 years ago.
Yeah, he is. It's just the Bruins aren't.
Yeah.
This has been Talking Hockey. Spencer's going to be so upset we did this without him.
The Blackhawks traded a couple guys. I don't really care. I just know they made the move.
Avalanche are all in.
Yeah.
Avs are all in. Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle. Well, they're all in. They're trying to get a second cup.
I rarely, when it comes to sports, feel completely out of it. Even if someone started talking about the Premier League, I'd be like, oh, man. Man City, that oil money, huh? Wild. Yeah. Man U, that's hilarious. Tottenham really spursed it, didn't they?
Yes, we're far enough into it, and we're also online enough in our worlds that we can generally fake it with just about any major sport.
I can't with hockey. I could not. I know the names, Mikko Rantanen and Brad Marchand. The two you just gave me, Frank was stuck in the coil from an episode of Sunny. He's a Avalanche now, an Avalancheman.
Avalanche is fine.
Okay.
An
for
the shortened version.
Yeah. Coil, don't know. Brody Croyle, that's who it is. Couldn't tell you.
Close enough.
Yeah.
I don't have anything but the names for you there.
Yeah.
But
it's one true blind spot. Like once upon a time I knew more. I don't know a damn thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Back in like the 90s when I was a child and I played the video games religiously, I could have told you who like the third line center on the New York Islanders was.
Yeah.
It was probably like Michael Pekka. But
Ryan on YouTube asks if Brad Marchand still bites people.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he like an active biter still, or is he graduated past his biting days?
I cannot confirm nor deny whether he is still an active biter, but you bite somebody once, you're a biter forever.
You lay a million bricks, no one calls you a bricklayer. You bite one dude in a hockey game.
Yep, you're the biter forever. Yeah, him and Luis Suarez can form a. Speaking about the Prem, they can form a support group. Anyhow, maybe Spencer gets to that in headlines later on, but we are going to talk some Chiefs. Top of the show, the legal tampering period will be underway the next time we talk to you after we sign off today. Free agency really gets revved up starting on Monday. So we're going to talk about just how active the Chiefs ought to be in free agency. Also, our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick, will join us at the bottom of this hour. Boy, we have a lot to talk about with Matt. We probably won't even get to everything we could possibly talk about with Matt today, given the busy week that the Chiefs have had and the busy week to come for the Chiefs and all the 31 other teams as well. Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joins us at the bottom of this hour. We'll talk a little Royals baseball. It was a good night for Cole Ragans last night, and it was a bad night to be a baseball being thrown to Jac Caglianone.
He hit a ball so hard. And so far.
Yeah. And then Bobby Witt Jr. had to one-up him today.
Yeah.
Bobby Witt Jr.'s already got a 450-foot tank this afternoon in Cactus League action for the Royals. He had to put him in his place, show him who boss was.
I think it is very important that we, a couple weeks ago, responded to a bunch of questions here on the show asking, is he going to make the opening day roster? Speaking of Jac Caglianone, saying no, he's not. I think it is our civic duty to disappoint you on the other side of these microphones early, so that when the rosters are announced, you're not disappointed later. Because I tell you what, there are going to be a lot of disappointed people when he's not on the opening day roster.
He's not going to be on the opening day roster, but I'll tell you this. He goes down and lights up Double-A, and Hunter Renfroe's hitting 190 and a statue in right field. The drums, they will be beating for Big Jack. So we'll talk a little Royals baseball on today's program. Good talk college hoops as well. It is senior day for both KU and K-State on Saturday, and that's always a special day, particularly for KU, who hasn't lost on senior day since Hector was a pup. But this is a senior day that I think is particularly notable given who is being honored for both KU and K-State. They are guys who are worth celebrating, guys who have ties to special teams in the history of their respective programs, but also guys that maybe show the way forward for programs that have had disappointing to varying degrees. They're disappointing for KU looks different than disappointing for K-State. They're programs that are held to a different standard right now, and for the better part of the last 30 years. The way forward is described by these seniors as well for both programs. So it's a fascinating senior day and should be a special one in both places. We'll talk about that. We got What Is Wrong With You coming up. Spencer's going to have the show from 4:30 onward. It may be all trade deadline. I have no idea if the Capitals did anything today. They may not need to do anything. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. Hear Spencer tell it. They're the best team ever assembled. So, and
if you disagree, you can die.
Die in hell.
In hell.
Right alongside Darren Pang. So
I was thinking about that all evening yesterday. Like, this man really said NHL lifer Darren Pang can go die in hell. Die to go to hell and then die there again.
Die in hell. Hell is just death over and over again, isn't it? Is it not?
I mean, depends on what you believe.
I suppose.
To some folks.
Yeah,
Least,
I suppose so. That may depend
Not
on
if you're an annihilationist, but that's,
may depend on the denomination. Anyhow, Spencer will take the reins after I head out for high school hoops, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. He'll talk a little K-State women's basketball. He'll have some headlines. He'll have some Chiefs free agency talk as well. We want to hear from you on the show today. Get at us on the text line. The text line is 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Also, if you are watching the YouTube stream today, you can comment on the YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. And if you are in the chat, you can interact with us and your fellow viewers throughout the show today. Good afternoon to Mark and Paul, Ryan, Vance, and others. Jason is in as well. And hearty welcome to all of you and everyone else who will join us throughout the show. And as Paul points out, a very happy Righteous Gemstone Season 4 premiere weekend to all who observe. That includes me and Brendan.
You know that?
And my dad, who's really excited.
That's awesome.
My dad was a bit of a late adopter. He blitzed through the first 3 seasons. And yeah, that's when he watches when that's when mom's not around.
When mom goes to bed.
Yeah. That's when he knows my mother wouldn't appreciate so much. So particularly this season. I have heard what you can expect from this season is to put it more mildly than Danny McBride did in an interview I was watching, more male frontal nudity.
Oh, good.
They're going out with a bang on the full frontal male nudity aspect of the show.
Good. We needed more of that.
Yeah, if ever a show needed more of that, it was definitely not the Righteous Gemstones.
If you're watching a show made by Danny McBride, there's going to be full frontal male nudity at some point.
Yes. Tastefully done or not, but definitely all nude. The Kansas City Chiefs and all 31 other NFL teams.
No good segue from that.
There truly is not. There truly is not. I tried to come up with one, and you could tell I drew a blank. The Chiefs and the 31 other NFL teams will start the legal tampering period of free agency on Monday morning. This is the last weekend for the Chiefs to get anything done with any of their players who are about to become free agents. They have exclusive negotiating rights too. There are a lot of deals getting done across the league. Bills got one done with Terrell Bernard, I think last night. That was announced, or it may have been earlier this morning. They've already gotten Khalil Shakir done. Obviously, we've talked about Zach Bond of the Eagles, Max Crosby resetting the market with his contract for the Raiders, and so on and so forth. But day one of free agency next week, there is no correlation between winning day one of the offseason and winning anything meaningful in January and February. In fact, usually it's the opposite. The teams that are the most active in that first 24-hour window of free agency, generally speaking, I don't know if any of them have ever hung the free agency champion banner next to a Super Bowl banner for the same year.
Do you remember what the first free agent signing of last offseason was? I remember it clear as day.
Was it McGlinchey to the Broncos?
It was not. The Bears signed DeAndre Swift. That deal was done at like 7 a.m. the day that legal tampering began. And I checked my phone. I remember it so clearly. And I thought, what? Why? Why are you doing this? So, yeah, teams sometimes, when you're desperate, hence the Chicago Bears, you overspend and you feel like we have to get it done right now. We must do this right this second.
So the question I have for the Chiefs as we go into free agency, when you evaluate the roster that right now is on hand, and I'll include for the sake of the discussion the guys who become free agents at the start of the new league year, guys like Nick Bolton and Kareem Hunt and Charles Omenihu, Justin Reed, all those guys. How much can you run it back with a team that got blown out in the Super Bowl? Or is that question, or putting that question that way, is that putting too much emphasis on one game and not the 18 that mattered that came before it, of which the Chiefs won 17 of them? Should the Chiefs be looking to churn this group a little bit and find some outside solutions or try and get younger at some crucial spots? Or would they be justified if they decided this weekend, hey, let's get Nick Bolton done. Let's get Justin Reed done. Let's get another year for Hollywood Brown or another year or two for Hollywood Brown. Let's bring back some of these guys who we believe can continue to make impacts for us as they made impacts for us in 2024. I think it's a fascinating philosophical question.
I think there are certain pieces I'm more willing to run it back with than others. And I think you can keep much of the core together without saying this roster is good enough. We're just going to ride with this group and bring everybody back. And I'm sure some folks cringed when they saw Mike Caliendo got a contract tender this week. I mean, that's nothing. Ideally, he is a backup, and that's it, whatever. But generally speaking, and even moving on from Tooney, like I don't know that I understand it. I don't know that I 100% agree with it, but I can at least think, look, we're trying to get younger. Maybe we're trying to get some better pure athletes out there. Maybe we want to do a little bit something different with the left side of the line or the line in general. I can sort of understand that. I can understand looking at your receiver group. And even though, I don't think DK Metcalf makes a lot of sense. We'll ask Matt Derrick about that a little bit later on, see if he feels differently. But I think you can still upgrade that wide receiver room. That's why I have pounded the drum the last 2 days saying I would love Tyler Lockett with this group, because I'd be fine bringing back Hollywood Brown. I think Tyler Lockett is a better player than Hollywood Brown. Like, that's an area where I think, can you make a little bit of a step forward, add a little bit of something? Yes. Now, defensively, same question. Do you think the Chiefs improve at safety if they start Cook and Hicks instead of Justin Reed and Hicks, or if they went out and added someone else from free agency? To be honest with you, I don't know that they can, but we're as high on Justin Reed as anybody is.
Yeah.
But in my belief, and I think you share this belief, I would run it back with Reed, because I think that's your best potential starting safety group next year. So I think it sort of depends on position, but I think the Chiefs should be at least fairly aggressive, even if it's like you wait until the second wave, which really starts on Wednesday when the new league year starts. And the big deals, like you said, and those are mostly done Monday, Tuesday.
And to point out, the Chiefs have done a really nice job in what you would consider that second wave. Mm-hmm. That's where the Drew Tranquil deal came from. That's where the Charles Omenihu deal came from. Chiefs waited out the market on guys like that and got good production. Could have gotten better production from Omenihu if he'd been healthy, but got good production from those guys on those contracts. Were able to turn it into a longer-term deal with Tranquil.
Yeah, that is an area where I trust Brett Veach a lot. Because I think the pro personnel department has done a really good job there, just like you trust him on day 3 of the draft, right? Like, they are going to find a starter, probably on defense, probably in the secondary in round 4 or later of the draft. Certain front offices are just good at certain things, and you trust that they're going to get those things right. One question I do have, though, when we talk about this, and I think the Nick Bolton situation will have a big impact on what the Chiefs can and are willing to do in free agency. We both assume that he will be back. I'm curious if the Chiefs tell him, hey, we want you back. We'll make you an offer, but go test the market. I am curious about that. And one team that pops in, I had not thought about this until I saw something from Jeff Kerr, our buddy from CBS Sports, who knows the Chiefs very well, but also knows the league very well. Tennessee Titans. You know what the Titans need? Talent. Literally anywhere.
Yeah.
They need talent. They have, and I've got the number up in front of me here. They have the pop-up ad, get out of my way. 7th most, is it 8th most cap space? $61.5 million available. You know who their new GM is?
Mike Borgonzi.
Mike Borgonzi, who spent a long time with who? The Kansas City Chiefs. And where was he working when Nick Bolton was drafted by the Chiefs? You got it. Kansas City in the front office. They've got money to spend. They need as much talent as they can get defensively. They just opened $10 million of cap space today by cutting Harold Landry, who's never been the same since tearing his ACL. I wonder if the Chiefs have a set price. They always do for their free agents. And I'm sure it's fairly high for Nick Bolton. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's that Zach Bond number. But if they say, hey, go see what you can find. And if the Titans come back like, hey, $65 million over 4 years, Chiefs might say, hey, go to Tennessee. Like, this is what you're told as a sales consultant. Like, hey, actually, that deal is too good. Like, yes, go advertise with them. Yeah, that deal's too good. Maybe go play for Tennessee. I wonder if they let Nick Bolton get to next Wednesday.
The fact that they don't have anything done with him now suggests that may be the path they're taking. Like we talked about right when we started this discussion, there have been a lot of teams who you don't want to chance your guy getting to the open market. The Eagles didn't want to take that chance with Saquon Barkley, understandably, or Zach Bond coming off of his all-pro year. The Bills didn't want to take that chance with Terrell Bernard, so they went and did something with him. The Chiefs, though, haven't made that move with any of their guys that are going to hit free agency once the weekend wraps up. And that doesn't mean they can't.
Yep.
But that does potentially signal that they are a little bit more comfortable letting those players hit the open market and feeling like, okay, if we can't get something done with Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil's a green dot next year. If we can't get something done with Justin Reed, then we got Brian Cook. He'll move into that role, and we'll give Brian Cook a contract extension, something along those lines. Certainly those are cheaper options than Bolton and Reed, respectively, project to be. So I think this is going to be a really interesting weekend for the Chiefs ahead tonight and these next few days to see if there's anything else that they do before legal tampering opens up. And that could kind of signal whether they believe that their broad core of players is good enough to go make another run at the Super Bowl, or if they feel like they need to get a little younger and consolidate some things this year. Brett Veach and company are going to tip their hand based upon how they enter the legal tampering period. And again, that'll be entered when we talk to you next.
Yeah, that'll be on Monday. The only place in the world where legal tampering is a thing. The one point that is probably worth bringing up, though, Dan, when you mentioned how important this weekend is, the Joe Thuney news. Within 20 minutes of it being reported that the Chiefs were shopping him, the deal was done. Obviously, it had been worked on before that. The Chiefs don't have a lot of leaking out of One Arrowhead Drive, but I think that is worth considering that a lot can happen between now and Monday morning.
Absolutely correct. We're going to take a quick time out, talk a little bit of Royals before Matt Derrick joins us, our Chiefs insider. We're just getting started on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. 3:30 on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting started on this Friday. Thanks for being with us. Royals winners in the Cactus League last night over the Cubs and got star performances from Cole Ragans, who returned to form with 3 innings of 1 hit ball, 6 strikeouts and no walks, and Jac Caglianone with another long home run. I have said it over and over again. The Royals are short an outfield bat. I firmly believe it. And there are 2 possible reasons why they haven't filled that void externally, although they reportedly have tried. 2 possible reasons why you wouldn't want to fill that void externally. Number 1, you think MJ Melendez has a step forward in him and can be a positive offensive contributor this season. Again, I'd love to see it. I believe it's more possible than maybe some do. It's a tough bet to make, but early returns are positive for MJ this spring. The other part is, what if you just don't want to block Big Jac? What if you think Jac Caglianone is the guy who's going to be swatting bombs from right field and the middle of the Royals lineup starting midway through this year? Beginning of next year, certainly. I have said, and still believe this is more likely than not, that the earliest ETA for Caglianone to the bigs is the start of 26. And that would be if he lit Double-A up this year. He wasn't awesome at high A last year, but he was coming off of a long college season, so nobody holds that against his prospect stock. But the fact that he went to high A and not low A suggests the Royals maybe think he's on the fast track. RoyalsReview.com had a piece about this. Maybe there's an element of fast track to Jac Caglianone. And look, he's going to have to learn a new position. He played a lot of first base because he was also pitching while he was at the University of Florida. So he's not played a ton of outfield, but if he can handle right field, and I'm telling you right now, his arm is every bit the equal to Hunter Renfroe's, and Renfroe's had one of the best throwing arms in baseball since he was a young player. If he can handle right field, even the cavernous right field at Kauffman Stadium, he shows he can handle that and has a good year at Double-A. I could see him in the opening day lineup in 2026. I really could. It's fun to imagine him getting there faster. It's fun to imagine it. I just don't think it's entirely likely. But every time he has a highlight of him swatting a strong home run slam like he did last night, and he got every bit of a hanger and deposited it deep into the right field berm in surprise. Or were they in Mesa last night? They might have been in Mesa. Wherever it was. It's going to get harder and harder to not hear the drums beating for Big Jac. And it's going to be a lot of fun when he does get to the bigs. I wouldn't hurry it. But maybe that's what the Royals are thinking. Maybe that's why there's not as much urgency as me would have liked in acquiring a bat for the long term in a corner outfield spot. So they want to hold one of those for Big Jac. Royals are winning today in surprise, beating the Angels 6-2. That game is in the 5th inning. Seth Lugo, 2 2/3, a run on 3 hits, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Bobby Witt Jr. has homered, as has the aforementioned Hunter Renfroe and Peyton Wilson, who's getting the start at second base today. It's a minor league player, maybe worth remembering. But the Witt Jr. homer was fun for 2 reasons. Number 1, it was 450 feet off the bat. Number 2, it came following a Jonathan India walk. There's the formula, folks, for more runs scored by the Royals in 2025. Matt Derrick at ChiefsDigest.com joins us next here on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider, writes for ChiefsDigest.com and joins us every Friday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. You can find Matt's work, again, ChiefsDigest.com. Follow him across social media by his name, Matt Derrick. Matt, how surprised were you at the speed at which the Joe Thuney trade unfolded? We went from zero to rumor to done, and it felt like under an hour there the other day. How surprised were you at how fast that all came together?
Yeah, the speed at which it came down was ridiculous because, I think the first text that came out was from Diana Rossini, and then, there was a couple more, chiming in that, hey, it looks like the Chiefs and the Bears are working on a deal. I texted someone to say, hey, does this have any legs? And got an immediate reply back, oh, done, 2026 fourth-round pick. So it was just, this was like Tyreek Hill in a microwave. It seemed like it went from, hey, this is a possibility to it's done in 5, 10, 15 minutes.
What's your initial reaction? I guess not initial. We've had a couple days now to kind of noodle on it, but how are you feeling about the Chiefs making this move and in particular what they got back, the 2026 fourth-round pick in exchange for their all-pro left guard?
It makes a lot more sense to me. When Andy Reid was talking last week, he gave kind of the impression that maybe the Chiefs were going to go ahead and go forward with Joe Thuney as the left guard and go ahead and have that $27 million cap hit this year. It didn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense because if you're franchise tagging Trey Smith, it seems like you're doing that to take the money off from Joe Thuney. If you're going to invest in a player, you're going to invest in the younger player. You've got a hole at left tackle. So are you just going to go ahead with Joe Thuney and that big cap hit and just try and get by with a more affordable option at left tackle? It never made a ton of sense, but Joe Thuney's been a reliable part of this team and somebody that they really, really trust. So if they wanted to go one more year with Thuney, you could kind of see it. But, now the way that it's unfolded, it certainly makes a lot more sense. And the fact that honestly, at a time when, this was expected to be a walk year anyway, other than, Joe Thuney really playing really good last year and obviously bailing you out at left tackle. And that kind of made sense. Like, okay, maybe you are going to go ahead and bite that big salary cap hit and go ahead and have him back, even though you don't have left tackle solved. It's like, okay, maybe you go ahead and do it for one more year. But this was always designed to be the decision year that you maybe walk away from Joe Thuney, you get $16 million off the books and you just move on because he's going to be 33. All that makes sense. But, the fact that he played so well made you, I can imagine gave the Chiefs maybe a pause to think maybe they could pull it off. But I think it makes a lot of sense. And, and I went back looking for the last time that a guard was able to return back as much as a fourth-round pick without there being an additional sweetener from the team sending the guard. I had to go back all the way back to, I think it was 2014, Logan Mankins going from the Patriots to the Bucks. That was the last time you got a fourth-rounder back. So I think Brett Veach did a pretty good job of getting anything, especially when I could see some teams saying, hey, let Joe Thuney hit free agency, let the Chiefs just walk away from that contract and not get anything in return.
Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest is our guest, our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's talk about now how the left side of the offensive line unfolds for the Chiefs moving forward. It sure sounds like left guard is Kingsley Suamata'ia's job to lose. When did the Chiefs start looking at their second-round draft pick last year as a guard of the future, and how likely is it that he can deliver at least quality play next season in his first year at a new position?
I'm not sure it didn't even occur to him as maybe far back as training camp at times. There was some, every once in a while you'd see some rotation, and obviously the Chiefs do that from they like to have cross training and everybody be able to play a different position if need be. But it seemed like it was pretty early that that there was some thought that maybe guard was going to end up being his best position. And certainly once, he really kind of struggled at left tackle to begin the season, I think that became just more and more of a belief in the organization. Then, obviously they had him play a guard in that final game in week 18. And I think that kind of solidified it. They just saw that, he seemed like a lot more comfortable there. So going into the offseason, it seemed like it was going to be a priority of just going ahead and making the move and letting him play guard. I mean, is that the end of it? I mean, is he never going to be a left tackle again? I mean, once you make the move to guard, you kind of feel that way. And I've, multiple people in the organization have been saying for a while now that maybe they do feel like that his best position is guard. So, hey, if they think that they've got a Pro Bowl, all pro caliber guard, and he would be somebody who would struggle at left tackle, continuing to struggle there, it makes sense. And the Chiefs have depth because I mean, if Kingsley doesn't thrive there, they really like Hunter Norzad. They selected C.J. Hansen too, who probably still needs a little bit of work, but I've been really impressed with Norzad, and I know other people in the organization have been impressed too. So I think they feel like they've got two pretty good options there. Obviously, they're going to be keeping Mike Caliendo as well. So they've got a ton of depth on that interior. Now it's just a matter of nailing down the left tackle spot.
And speaking of the left tackle spot, that's a great segue into my next question. It has to be now that the Chiefs take a run at one of the high-end left tackles on the market, right? They're not just going to settle for the question mark that would be a reunion with a guy like DJ Humphries, who's hardly played football the last 2 years, or Donovan Smith, who didn't play any football last year. It's got to be like Cam Robinson or Ronnie Stanley or bust at this point, right?
Yeah, it really feels like that Ronnie Stanley is plan A and Cam Robinson's probably plan B. Plan C, if neither one of those works out, might be a little bit more questionable. Maybe that's where the Chiefs just throw some numbers at the position, and they still might do that. I mean, even if they are able to get Stanley or Robinson signed, maybe they do try to bring back a DJ Humphries. I know Donovan Smith looks like he wants to probably try to play again in 2025 as well. Maybe he factors in there. Could you throw a draft pick at the question too? Absolutely, sure. So they could still throw numbers at it, but you'd certainly feel like that, now that you've moved on from Tooney, you moved on from that money, even though you feel like that is going to be going towards Trey Smith, you've still got some flexibility for the Chiefs. So, signing a veteran left tackle and getting either Stanley or Robinson, it's a lot easier now that you don't have Joe Tooney on that line.
We're joined by Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He joins us every Friday afternoon for our Chiefs Insider here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Matt, I'm in total agreement with you about what to do at left tackle, but I still almost think that the Chiefs need to consider using their first-round pick on a tackle as well, because long-term, if you go with Stanley or Robinson, you certainly have to question how long are those guys going to be in that position, both upwards of 30 at this point. Stanley, I believe, 31. Meanwhile, at right tackle, Juwan Taylor's still under contract for the next 2 seasons, but I think most people, at least from what we've been able to tell, don't really expect him to be on the team for those 4 full seasons, and maybe you've been hearing differently. I still think you need to plan for tackle for the future. I still think it's probably worth it to spend a top 60 pick on a tackle this year. Do you feel the same way with the draft coming up?
Yeah, you're right, Brendan. I mean, it's the Chiefs. They need an answer for not just left tackle, but right tackle too, for not just 2025, but 2026 and beyond, because this is going to be next offseason is going to be the walk year on Juwan Taylor and making the decision. And yes, the Chiefs are anticipating that it's probably his last year in Kansas City. So, a long-term answer on both sides. But, the scary thing is that you look at the draft and, heading into the combine, the Chiefs thought maybe there was 2 or 3 left tackles that had a first-round grade. Maybe that pool will expand as they do more and more research. But at the same time, I mean, a lot of the combine measurements were disappointing as far as tackles and arm length, and even some of the guys that tested really well, like Missouri, Armin Membu, has been a right tackle and not really tested on the left side. Even guys like Josh Simmons that a lot of people like coming off of a patellar tendon. A lot of teams, he's not even going to be on their draft board because of the injury history. So I'm just not sold that there is a left tackle solution out there. Maybe there's a right tackle solution. Maybe there's a lot of guards in this market this year in the draft. It's not shaping up necessarily to be a great year looking for a tackle if you're drafting and, with those top 60 picks.
Now, with that being said, I think offensive tackle is obviously important early on. I also thought, though, before the most recent reshuffling of this offensive line, the Chiefs were in a great place to get another starting defensive tackle near the end of this year's first round, because that's one of the deepest positions. It's pretty much running back, defensive line, tight end is the deepest spots in this year's draft, which actually kind of plays into the Chiefs' needs at least a little bit. But I thought a guy like Kenneth Grant from Michigan might fall. Walter Nolan is at least an interesting prospect from Ole Miss. He might be there at number 31. Next to tackle, what would you say is the position that you, if you were Brett Veach, would most want to target at the end of the first round?
Yeah, defensive line really pops out because that's a spot where the Chiefs need multiple bodies. I mean, it's not just defensive end, it's defensive tackle as well. They'd probably like to get 2 defensive ends, whether it's in the draft or through free agency. I mean, getting some at least depth at that position. But, especially if you look at tackle, they've really needed a strong one tech next to Chris Jones for a long, long time. A guy that can really just eat up space and be a stout run defender. Mike Pennell has come in and kind of been that for them in, spurts. And but they haven't had a really young, developable guy to do that. I mean, they kind of tried to do that with Keandre Coburn, but that didn't work out. That's something that they really need. So if there's that kind of defensive tackle that you can line up next to Chris Jones and really help him out inside, I think that would be ideal for the Chiefs. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt defensive line, I think, is absolutely, because it is a deep draft. Wouldn't surprise me if the Chiefs hit that spot maybe a couple of times in this draft.
A couple of national football media outlets over the last day or so have pegged the Chiefs as one of the teams that could or should be in on a trade for DK Metcalf, the Seahawks receiver who requested a trade officially earlier this week. I don't really know that makes a lot of sense. Dan agreed with me yesterday. We were talking about it on the show. Where do you land? Do you think for the price it might cost to get DK Metcalf, the Chiefs should take a swing on him?
Well, I mean, it's a really good question in the sense that, if you added a DK Metcalf, where does he fit in? Who's your number 3? I mean, is it Metcalf? Is it Rashee Rice? Is it Xavier Worthy? I mean, you've got, already 2 guys that you really, really like. And if you're adding, I think you certainly would love if you're the Chiefs add speed to that room. But, do you feel pretty good about your 1-2 options right now? Factor in price, because let's face it, it's not just the $22 million in cash that DK Metcalf has due this year. He's going to want a new deal. So you're talking about certainly paying him probably in excess of $22 million per year going forward. And I kind of circle back again. I mean, if that was your plan, you probably just never let go of a Tyreek Hill. And if you're going to pay $20 million, do you want to consider that doing with your Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy and keep your own guys that you're growing? I get it. DK Metcalf's a special talent. And he's been a really good player. And maybe the Chiefs still have a little bit of regret about not taking him when they had a chance to in the draft, originally. But I just have a hard time seeing how he fits in with this team when you've got 2 young guys that you already like, and then you're trying to squeeze in that dollar too, because with this team and how much you're spending on the offensive line already and what they need to do, and they've got a lot of stuff that need to get done on defense, it just seems like that's probably another luxury you can't afford if you're the Chiefs.
Really quick, Matt, because you bring up Rashee Rice, do you know what the Chiefs think his timeline for recovery is going to be? Because it's already, at ACL, you're looking at 9 months to a year. But if I remember correctly, his injury was far more severe than just a clean tear of the ACL. Do you have any sort of intel on what the Chiefs think his recovery window might be?
They're pretty bullish on that this can be a fairly quick recovery, that maybe he can be ready by the beginning of the season, maybe even by the beginning of training camp. Because even though it was in that posterior lateral corner of the knee, that dark corner they did talk about, all the major ligaments were intact. So there's at least some optimism that he could be ready by the beginning of the season. And then there's some optimism too that, when a suspension comes down, that maybe it's not going to be of the 6 to 8 game variety, that maybe it's going to be more in the 2 to 4 variety.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs for ChiefsDigest.com, and he joins us
every Friday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, it is always a pleasure. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds great, guys. New league year next week, so we're gonna have some fun.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
That is Matt Derrick. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk next. I'll slide a quick on second thought in to wrap up this 3 o'clock hour since I won't be around for it at the end of the 4 o'clock hour. I've got two of them. Number one, issuing a correction from yesterday. The actor John Cryer of the show 2.5 Men, I mistakenly referred to him as an alumnus of my alma mater, DePauw University. That is not correct. John Cryer did not go to college. His parents went to DePauw. That's where they met. So that was half right, I guess. Spiritually correct, but factually wrong. Factually completely wrong. Also, on second thought, I would never have thought that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to go into the 2025 season with Trey Smith and without Joe Thuney. If you had told me that at any point before, like last Monday, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I would not have believed it. But that's where the Chiefs are, heading into the legal tampering period, which again will start Monday morning. I think it's 11 a.m. Eastern. It might be 11 Central. And there's the time change this weekend. It's a whole thing. But there's the legal tampering period that gets underway on Monday before the official start of the new league year. And the Chiefs know who their right guard is going to be for this year, and they hope for the long-term future. And they've got to figure out what's going to happen on the left side of their offensive line. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, what is wrong with you? We'll crown a weekly champion. We'll talk about Senior Day for K-State and KU basketball, previewing their final regular season home games. And Spencer's got audio from Coach Jeff Mittie after the K-State women crashed out of the Big 12 tournament earlier today. That's coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk coming at you on this Friday. We are so glad to be with you. We are so glad it's Friday, and hopefully you are too. Thanks for hanging out on the Sports Voice of Kansas here on 580 Sports Talk. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And a special hello to everybody rocking with us on our YouTube stream, on our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, or if you're watching us on Facebook at WIBW News. Either way, thanks for being with us, hanging out, and making us a part of your Friday afternoon. I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is across the glass.
I am here. I'm present.
Spencer, you missed our big opening segment about the NHL trade deadline. I'm sorry. There will be no more hockey talk today. You missed it.
Yeah. Well,
did the Capitals sit out the trade deadline?
No, they made a trade.
Did they make a move?
They made a move with the Penguins.
Oh, did they?
I can't spell the guy's Anthony, or I can't say the guy's name. Anthony something. He's got like 7 goals, 13 assists.
Okay, so they added some depth.
Yeah, a guy that's going to be a fourth line center, I think.
Sure. Those are the guys to help you win.
I mean, you need a guy behind there if you're injured, especially if some guy gets injured down the stretch, because
you need grinders.
Yeah,
grinders win cups.
They've been calling up to down to their American Hockey League team whenever there's one guy injured, because they don't have a lot of depth.
So it's a great thing to get a star at the deadline, but it's those third line, fourth line guys.
I see the Avs were busy yesterday.
The Avalanche are all in today too. Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle coming to town. I definitely knew how good Brock Nelson was in particular before the Avs traded for him. Definitely knew all about him. Definitely not making that up. But maybe Spencer will get to some hockey news in the NHL trade deadline on the headline segment coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Brendan Dworzynski is en route to Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City. Washburn women's basketball tonight in the quarterfinals of the MIAA postseason tournament. The 5th seed Ichabods taking on the number 4 seed Lopers of Nebraska Kearney. 2 teams splitting the regular season series. Washburn lost at Kearney in December when they were really banged up, didn't have their best player, Yabari Wadada, available for that game. With a healthier team, Washburn handled the Lopers at Lee Arena back, I think, in January. So we'll be meeting number 3 between those 2 teams, the rubber match, if you will. Winner plays on to the semifinals on Saturday. It is a 6 o'clock tip-off scheduled at Municipal Auditorium. That means Brendan's pregame coverage will start at 5:45 on the exclusive home of the Ichabods, our sister station, Country 106.9. I will be making my way up north to Seaman High School for some high school basketball tonight, following the What Is Wrong With You segment this hour. Got high school hoops on the 580 Preps road to a championship. Myself and the coach, Larry Latimer, will be at Seaman High School for what should be a really good 5A girls sub-state final tonight between Seaman and Capon Mount Carmel. Seaman with a 27-game winning streak dating back to last year, the defending 5A state champions, unbeaten at 21-0. Capon Mount Carmel 16-5. Really good team out of the City League. Going to be a tough one tonight for Seaman, but again, they've won 27 in a row. They're an awfully good team. So should be a great game. 6 o'clock tip-off for that one. So we'll start our pregame coverage on the 580 Preps road to a championship at 5:40. Once that one is done, game 2 of our doubleheader will take place in Blue Rapids. Trenton Craxner, our former summer intern, is standing by. He's probably on his way to Blue Rapids right now. He's going to watch his alma mater, Valley Falls Dragons, take on Mission Valley in the first sub-state championship game on the 2A boys side. And then he's going to call the second game for us. You'll hear the action in full as Rossville plays Mauer Hill Mount Academy. Mauer Hill Mount Academy, the higher seed, but in the final KBCA 2A boys top 10 poll of the season, the Ravens were ranked 5th. Rossville was ranked 6th. So this should be a really good game, too. And we're excited to bring that one to you. 7:30, the scheduled tip-off time for that one. Again, on the 580 Preps road to a championship. Other area action tonight, 3A girls sub-state finals in the Hiawatha sub-states. First game of the night will be Silver Lake, the defending 3A champs, taking on Wellsville. And then the second game at Hiawatha tonight, Osage City, the number 1 seed in that sub-state, taking on upset-minded Royal Valley. In 4A, got a good one in St. George tonight on the boys' side. Rock Creek and Hayden for the right to go to Salina in the 4A state tournament. That's a 7 o'clock tip. 5A girls, 3 teams from the city hoping to reach the state tournament. In addition to the Seaman Vikings, Highland Park Scots are at home trying to slay the 5A Giants, though no longer on a 7 consecutive state title streak. St. Thomas Aquinas still the program to be reckoned with in 5A, and they come to the pressure cooker tonight. That's a 7 o'clock tip-off. Shawnee Heights is on the road trying to do something that they could not do in 2 regular season meetings, and that is beat the Piper Lady Pirates. That's a 7 o'clock tip in 5A girls. And in 6A boys tonight, Washburn Rural's at home against Junction City. Junior Blues trying to return to state for the first time since 2019. We'll have final scores on all of those games and all the rest of them tonight on the Kansas High School Basketball Scoreboard Show, coming your way at 10 o'clock right here on the flagship station of the Kansas Information Network, 580 WIBW. Eric Peterson will be Mike's side for that 1-hour recap of all of the high school action. And while we're on the subject, we may as well tell you that first, I forgot a game tonight, and my apologies to the Burlingame boys who played some really good ball this year in 1A Division I. They are in Centralia tonight taking on Clifton Clyde for the right to advance to the 1A1 state tournament. I think that one is in Dodge City this year. 1A2, I think, is back in Colby, if I am remembering correctly. But Burlingame playing for the right to go to state tonight as well. Tomorrow night, sub-state finals in Class 2A. Girls, Wabaunsee is taking on Doniphan West. That game will be in Blue Rapids at Valley Heights. And Linden trying to upend Chase County in 2A girls. That one is at the Yates Center sub-state. 3A boys in Hiawatha tomorrow. Silver Lake and Perry LeCompton both hoping to punch their tickets to Hutch. Silver Lake will play Sabetha, who upset the top seed St. Mary's in that sub-state. And Perry LeCompton, the number 10 seed, has advanced all the way to the championship game. They're going to take on the number 3 seed Bishop Ward in the other sub-state final. 3A boys in Hiawatha. 4A girls, Hayden's the number 1 seed in the East sub-states. They've got Baldwin coming to the Butel Center tomorrow night. Rock Creek is the number 3 seed. They're at home. They draw the unenviable task of trying to take down Bishop Miege, who dominates 4A girls historically. 5A boys, 3 city teams in action tomorrow night, and one of them you'll be able to hear on our 580 Preps Road to a Championship coverage tomorrow night, 5 o'clock tip. Highland Park, undefeated at 21-0, the top seed in the 5A East sub-state, taking on a very good Bayshore Linwood team, much better than their number 8 seed and 12-9 record would suggest. Going to be a challenge for the Scots. Myself and Larry Latimer will have the call tomorrow night. Pregame at 4:40, tip-off at 5. Other 5A boys sub-state finals tomorrow night. Number 3, Shawnee Heights, taking on number 6, St. Thomas Aquinas. And over in the West, the 5th seed, Topeka West, gets to play at home against the 13 seed, Valley Center, who upset the 4 seed Seaman on Wednesday night. And in 6A girls, Topeka High is on the road. They're the 7 seed in the West. They are at number 2 seed Wichita Heights, while Washburn Rural, who has played in the last 3 6A girls state championship games, will try and advance back to Wichita. They take on a familiar Centennial League foe in Manhattan at Washburn Rural tomorrow. Get it? Got it? Good. There'll be a test later, Spencer.
It's crazy. So a year ago today was state tournament. Yesterday was the start of state tournament a year ago.
Yeah, it was a little earlier last year. This year, unfortunately, happens to coincide with the Big 12 tournament.
Is that like an every other year kind of thing, it feels like?
Just sort of depends on how the calendar falls. But that is our state tournament coverage will be kind of dependent on what Kansas State does in the Big 12 men's basketball tournament. But, of course, we will have coverage for a 58th consecutive year of the state basketball tournaments next week here on the Sports Voice of Kansas.
A big milestone happened in my life a year ago today.
Was that your first time at Brahms?
Yeah. Yes.
I knew it.
A pre-tournament early lunch at the Brahms in Hutch.
5 years ago today, I had my appendix out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 5 years ago today, I had emergency surgery to remove my inflamed appendix. Thankfully, nothing else happened in 2020 that was nearly as bad. Thankfully, the rest of the year proceeded entirely smoothly from there. Anyhow,
wait, hold on. So you must have been like one of the last people to ever have like surgery before they shut down the surgeries for a while.
It was Yeah, it was 4 days later that where Tom Hanks or Rudy Gobert got sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that next week on the show. That won't be fun to revisit that 5-year anniversary, but we'll get there. Still to come this hour, as I mentioned, we got some What Is Wrong With You. We're going to crown a weekly champion, and we have some audio from Jeff Mittie, head coach of the Kansas State Wildcat women. Lost a tough one today in Kansas City to West Virginia. K-State had a 9-point third quarter lead. Really excellent, better team in the first half, but West Virginia reeled them in, beat them by 4, 73-69 in the final at the T-Mobile Center. So we'll hear from Jeff Mittie. We'll have some sports headlines with Spencer in the 5 o'clock hour and a whole lot more. But I wanted to start with some college hoops today because tomorrow is senior day for both Kansas and Kansas State. KU welcoming Arizona to Allen Fieldhouse. K-State's also got a ranked team coming to town, the 10th-ranked Cyclones of Iowa State. Tough draws for senior day, but of course, KU's senior day streak goes back about a million years, something like that. And K-State has a chance also for an upset on senior day. And senior day is always special. It always is a really neat day. And one of my favorite things about it is that it puts the guys who are your program players, your walk-ons, on the level playing field with your stars who make it all the way to their senior year. And there aren't as many of those guys anymore, right? There aren't as many superstar players who go 4 years in college. So it's more and more now. It's program guys, and it's your single year or 2-year transfers. And you don't maybe have, as a fan or as a student body, the same connection to like a David Coit or a Shaquille Moore in the case of Kansas's senior day, as you might with the guys we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But it is also cool that like Patrick Cassidy from Columbus, Kansas is going to get to walk and going to get to give a speech and going to get that standing ovation, just like DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams are.
And we'll get to go on the court probably, right? I feel like I was at senior day last year and they brought in a bunch of, or I watched senior day. I feel like he brought in a bunch of players at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Or like he scattered guys.
He'll try. He'll no guarantees, but he'll certainly, Bill Self will try to get those guys at the end of the bench. Him and Justin Cross is another senior walk on that will have an opportunity potentially to get on the floor. But the reason that this is a particularly notable senior day for both KU and K-State is because of what the guys who are going to be honored tomorrow represent. And for KU, I'm talking specifically about DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams, who leave Kansas having already done the thing that you go to Kansas to do: hang the big banner. They were part of the national championship team in 2022. Now, KJ Adams was just a bit player that year, obviously, but DeJuan Harris played a massive role in that championship team, played all 40 games, started 39 of them. He's played 169 college games with at least 3 more to go. And by any measure, it's been a successful career. He's given his all for KU. I don't know what his basketball future looks like. He's a 6'1" guard who can't shoot. It's not an NBA future. If he wants to play overseas, perhaps there's a route there for him. But this could be the last real meaningful basketball of DeJuan Harris's life. KJ Adams is another guy. Like I mentioned, kind of a bit player on that national championship team. Even though he appeared in 37 games, he averaged less than 5 minutes per contest, but became a more regular starter over the last 3 years. He's played 134 games. He's done a lot of winning. He's got a national championship ring. And he stayed. 4 years, he was there. DeJuan Harris, 5 years, he was there. And those are the special guys to a program. And they're fewer and farther between across the college basketball landscape. So when you get a guy or guys like DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams, who you go through as a fan the ups and the downs with, it makes it a lot more special to celebrate them and hear their speeches and watch them play that final home regular season game. Also being honored for KU, I mentioned Diggy Coit. I mentioned the walk-ons, Justin Cross, Patrick Cassidy. Zach Clements, I think, will walk, even though he won't play. Shaquille Moore probably won't play either, but he is also a senior. And then, of course, you got Hunter Dickinson and Zeke Mayo. And Zeke Mayo is special because he's a hometown kid who used his final year of college eligibility to come home and to try and bring more championship glory to the University of Kansas, something he, I'm sure, dreamed of as a kid growing up in Lawrence. And then you have Hunter Dickinson, who has played really good basketball as a Kansas Jayhawk. He's put up big numbers. He's won some games, won big games. He has, he's probably going to be, if he's not first team all Big 12, he'll be high second team all Big 12 this year. But he will be a guy whose career maybe is viewed as a little bit of a disappointment if he does not indeed deliver that national championship. But back to Harris and Adams, because they're the most important guys walking for KU on Saturday for senior day. Yes, they are special players in KU history. They are champions forever. You can never take that away from either guy. But both players also represent players who have at times looked as though they were not made for these times in college basketball. Bill Self's always thrived with undersized point guards, but Frank Mason could shoot, and Devontae Graham could shoot, and Juwan Harris never really could shoot. And to have a point guard who cannot get his own has at times limited Kansas over the last 2 seasons. KJ Adams, man, give me 12 guys who play as hard, play with the passion of a KJ Adams, and I'd show you a team that could win a national championship. Just on the intangibles alone, I love to watch KJ Adams compete, and I love to watch him try and guard big men who are bigger than his 6'7", 225-pound frame. I love KJ Adams, the competitor. But as a 6'7" player who does not have shooting range to speak of, he is, again, a player whose limitations have at times put Kansas in tough spots on the offensive side of the ball. That's not to say that these guys aren't to be celebrated, but it is also to show how college basketball, how rapidly college basketball has changed and how much it's evolved to look like the NBA. And there's a reason you don't have a lot of 6'7" tweeners who can't shoot playing in the NBA. There's a reason you don't have a lot of small point guards with no willingness to really shoot from three who play in the NBA. The college game looks more like the pro game in the sense that shooting and spacing are more valuable. I don't mean that in the derogatory sense you may take that to mean if you were not an NBA fan. I mean it in the sense that there are skill sets that are more valuable in college basketball than they used to be even when Harris and Adams started their college careers. So they exit college basketball. It sounds meaner than I intend it to say that they come off, they leave college basketball as relics of a way that the game used to be played and a way that you can still have success. Again, these guys leave with championship rings on their fingers, but their limitations became over time more noticeable and a little tougher for Kansas teams that they were on to overcome. And I think it shows Kate that get that tough as nails small point guard, they better be able to get their own shot. And it helps if they can stretch the defense. And if Darrell Peterson's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands next year, you're not going to have to worry about that guy being able to create his own shot. Oh, boy, can he create his own shot. For K-State, Coleman Hawkins revealed today he's playing with a broken leg. He's got a fracture in his tibia, and he's playing through that for a team that is probably not going to the NCAA tournament.
That's crazy.
Whatever criticism you levied at Coleman Hawkins for just collecting the NIL check, I said this yesterday, but now I hope you really feel bad.
I don't know. Maybe he's doing it because of that, because of all the hate that he got before.
Well, for whatever reason, the fact that he's doing it is admirable.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little reckless, but for his own personal well-being. But it is admirable that Coleman Hawkins is out there sacrificing for his guys like that. He'll get to walk on senior day. Max Jones will, though I think K-State will hope that he can get an extra year of eligibility if that court ruling that all of a sudden Division II doesn't count for Division I eligibility gets upheld. There's a chance Max Jones could have one more year. Spencer Bain, the walk-on from Overland Park, will get to walk. And then David Gasson will get to walk. And David Gasson, as we've mentioned, represents what the best case scenario for K-State using the transfer portal I think is going to look like moving forward. Guys who stay multiple years, who develop, and who give their all for the institution. David Gasson, you prick him and he bleeds purple. He is a K-Stater through and through. He has proven it time and again. And I'll say it one more time. Go give David Gasson his flowers on his senior night. In fact, if you would like to go to see Kansas State play Iowa State on senior night, senior day, I guess it's an afternoon game, I'm going to give away a pair of tickets. How about that? I'm going to give away a pair of tickets to the K-State game against Iowa State tomorrow. If you call 785-272-9429, caller number 3 gets the tickets during this break. 785-272-9429. What is wrong with you? Coming up, 580 Sports Talk.
Your hair count, but promote new hair growth without surgery, without drugs with potential side effects, and without a prescription from your doctor? Well, now you can, thanks to a breakthrough new supplement called Hair Grow, provided by New Nordic, the #1 supplier of dietary supplements in Europe. Hair Grow is now available in the U.S. Only Hair Grow contains Tocogaya, a powerful antioxidant that has received a U.S. patent. Multiple clinical studies show Hair Grow is safe and effective in promoting new hair growth. In one study, 95% of the patients using Hair Grow saw increased hair counts. Don't lose more time and more hair. Try Hair Grow today to feel and look your best. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS. Look younger and feel more confident with Hair Grow by New Nordic at NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
WIDW Topeka.
Don't be fooled. We are going to do What Is Wrong With You.
I definitely put that in there earlier. I don't know what happened.
It must not have. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
What the hell? What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk?
What is wrong with me, I guess?
What is wrong with us? We forgot to do the correct open. What is wrong with you? Sponsored by our guy Ryan Winkle, State Farm agent, Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. Our current champ from all the way back on Monday, the Double D drunk driver from LaPorte County, Indiana. Gentleman was extremely drunk, driving and FaceTiming with his girlfriend, who was flashing him her naked breasts, and distracted him to the point where he drove onto some train tracks and couldn't get off the train tracks. Now, he got off the train tracks, but his car, it did not make it off the train tracks.
Nope.
Well, I suppose it probably did eventually.
Yeah.
But
not the way you'd hoped it to.
As a hunk of twisted steel. Yeah. So our Double D drunk driver is our current champion on What Is Wrong With You. We got 2 new stories today. I'm going to go first. I love it when a headline starts with a quote, "I'm not crazy." That's what we have here. We meet a Brazilian couple who went viral after authorities said the two tried to force their way onto an American Airlines flight and hurled coffee at 2 airport staffers in the process. Authorities say 29-year-old Beatriz Rapoport de Campos Maya and her fiancé Rafael Serafe Novaes, 41, tried to barge their way through gate agents at the Miami International Airport after they missed the boarding process for their flight to Cancun on March 2nd. Both were charged with battery and trespassing. The gentleman was also charged with resisting arrest without violence. They defended themselves against the allegations in an interview with CBS News Miami. The bride-to-be said, quote, "Nobody threw coffee. The coffee fell. The lady who said I threw it was a liar. It just dropped on the floor out of my hand at high velocity, and I was propelling it forward." The gentleman, the groom-to-be, said, quote, "I am not crazy. We would not throw coffee. Coffee I drink." There's cell phone footage capturing the moment that multiple officers took down Serafe Novaes and stopped De Campos Maya when they went through the gate. The couple said the missed flight marked their second connection to Cancun, where they wanted to celebrate their engagement. De Campos Maya said, "We were going to Cancun to enjoy our vacation, all-inclusive hotel. We already paid the hotel. It's a lot of money, and then we were not able to do that." Look, without commenting on whether or not they threw coffee, the fact that they tried to barge their way down the jetway when the boarding process had already stopped. Look, man, just get there early. That's why they tell you, get there early. Did you see there's like a TikTok challenge now? There's like the show up late for the airport challenge. Like people are showing up 15 minutes before their flight and thinking they're going to get on their plane. And people are missing flights.
The only way you can do that is if you live in like a rural enough area and you're not taking, you're just taking a carry-on. And even then, that's a stretch.
Like, I understand that it is not super fun to wait to get on the airplane, to sit in those chairs. They're kind of cramped. Like, I get that waiting in the airport's not super cool. But no, get there in time so you get on your plane so you don't have to worry about blowing all that money. Man, I'd be so mad if I missed an all-inclusive resort vacation to Cancun. Yeah. I'd be furious. But you know what I wouldn't do? Throw coffee at people. Get myself arrested. The Cancun Coffee Crashers, says Mark P. We got a lot of Marks on our YouTube chat crew. Shout out to Mark P. Welcome in. Paul K. More like Cancun. Got him. All right, Spencer, you got a story?
Yeah, again here, this is What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Ryan Mo Winkle. I'm going to read the headline, too, because there's a little quote in there as well. Florida man accused of taking out man bits in back of Lyft ride from Walmart to mobile home park. We're going to head to Lakeland, Florida. A Florida man found himself in handcuffs after deputies say he was caught with his pants down in the back of a Lyft. According to Polk County Sheriff's Office, Justin Cole, of 35 of Lakeland, was picked up by a Lyft rideshare driver Tuesday evening at a Walmart store. The driver told a deputy that Cole asked her to take him to his home at a mobile home park on North Cumbie Road. According to deputies, the Lyft driver claimed that when she stopped at a stop sign and looked back to make sure it was clear to make a turn, she saw Cole in the back seat with his pants down. Deputies said he was, quote, doing something back there that she absolutely positively did not want him to be doing in her car, end quote. Deputies said Cole told them that his, quote, man bits were uncomfortable, so he pulled his pants down, grabbed them to make
Sure.
Grab them to be more comfortable. Cole was charged with exposure of sexual organs. In 2018, he was charged with lewd molestation on a victim.
So he's just a creep.
He's a creep.
He's just a creep.
Yes. He served prison time for that charge. Also, it's not the first time PCSO said they've arrested a man doing the same thing in a Lyft rideshare. They did that. They arrested somebody back in December of 24.
Wait till you get home. And you can do whatever you want with your man bits. Can't believe I had to say that on the radio today. I'm ruined my day. Man bits. Said it again. Yuck. Don't like it. Don't care for it. Who we got today?
I don't know.
Man, throwing coffee at people because you were late for your flight. Wasn't their fault. Wasn't their fault you were late for your flight. It's your fault. It's your fault you were late for your flight. They were platinum like American Airlines like Flyer Miles members too.
That's ridiculous.
Like they know.
No, come on.
They
you
know
can't
the
be doing
process.
That. You can't be doing
and they know
that.
you got to be there early. So I think that one wins today.
Yeah.
But I don't think it beats the Double D drunk driver.
No, I think it's going to be a hard one to beat this month.
I think you're right. The Double D drunk driver is our first weekly champion for the month of March on What Is Wrong With You? Sponsored by our buddy Mo, State Farm agent Ryan Mo Winkle. I'm out of here. I'm heading up to Seaman High School for high school basketball and the 580 Press Road to a championship. Spencer's got you the rest of the way here on 580 Sports Talk.
responsible for keeping a leading healthcare facility clean and safe. And he trusts Granger's high-quality HVAC cleaning and safety products, combined with their world-class supply chain, to consistently deliver, ensuring he's covered inside and out. so he can focus on keeping his facility clean to help protect the health of everyone inside. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
WIBW, Topeka.
.441 here on 580 Sports Talk, the youngest in command movement, taking the reins here. Spencer Dupuy with you, taking you up until 5:40. We'll send things back over or out to Dan Lucero, the coach Larry Latimer, as they will be on the call for some sub-state basketball action. And that'll be at 5:40 this evening. Spencer Dupuy again with you here, the youngest in command movement, as Dan Lucero leaving. And then you hear Brendan Dorzinski here on the airwaves on our sister station, Country 106.9 at 5:45, as Washburn women's basketball in the MIAA tournament takes on Nebraska Kearney. 6 p.m. tip for that one on our sister station, Country 106.9. And then Dan Lucero, the coach Larry Latimer, will be out as the Seaman Lady Vikes take on Coppin Mount St. Carmel. That game, 5:40 pregame. It'll be a 6 p.m. tip-off. And then our friend, former intern Trenton Craxner, will be on the call for some action later on tonight around 7:30 as Rossville takes on Mar Hill in sub-state boys action. But let's talk some Kansas State women's hoops. They come up on the wrong side of a game against 4-seeded West Virginia in the Big 12 tournament today. 73-69, the final score. K-State used a 33-point first quarter, 10-point lead to take the lead at halftime, 44-36. But unfortunately, giving up 20 points in the third quarter was not on the right side of things for K-State. Overall, I mean, this was a great shooting game. You look at things, 53% from the field for K-State, WVU at 50%, K-State 44% from beyond the arc, 37 for West Virginia. And West Virginia, 16-21 of the charity stripe. K-State only going there 10 times with going 7 of 10. Both teams 15 turnovers. K-State had 20 points compared to 15 off turnovers, both with 26 total rebounds. This game came down to just a few things, and quite honestly, K-State should have won this one. They were leading over 28 minutes of the contest. The game was tied for under 4.5 minutes. I mean, they were leading for a good portion, and West Virginia ended on a 6-0 run over the last minute and 21 seconds. But unfortunately, K-State falls. Also, I don't know why the video is like that, but I've never had that happen before. Let me switch the video here on our stream. There we go. We've got it fixed. Shout out to Vance in the YouTube chat. But back to K-State women. They should have won this game. Obviously, you're going to look at it and be like, well, they didn't have the Big 12 preseason player of the year, Aoka Lee, as she was going to be out until the NCAA tournament. Kennedy Taylor came off the bench and lit it up, 21 points. She did not miss a shot today, except for when she was at the charity stripe going 3 for 4. In 22 minutes, she scored 21 points. Tamira Poindexter had 16 points, and Serena Sundell scoring 10. 8 points for Ziona Walker and Jaden Glenn. 6 points for Terrence Sides. And they only played, 8 today. Yeah, they only played 8 players. But again, they likely will not have a home game. They won't have the first 2 rounds of home hosting at the Octagon of Doom. Unfortunately, you pretty much needed that win. I think with the win over West Virginia today, they would have most certainly locked up because, again, West Virginia, a top 25 team, and they kind of want to be there. After the game, head coach Jeff Mitty spoke, and quite a few things he said. We'll have about here. This is about a 3.5 minute. He answers about 2 questions and has an opening statement, and then we'll have a couple more audio bites from there. But let's start with this one. Jeff Mitty after the loss on the opening statement, plus a little bit more.
Battled, I thought, extremely hard. Both teams played well. You know, it's Both teams shot the ball well. And it wasn't because of bad defense. I think both teams really did some good things at that end. These things boil down to a couple plays and a couple things that either you make them or don't make a shot or something. And they made plays, and we made a lot of plays in this game. So I can't fault our group. I thought our group played well. Thought our group did a lot of really, really good things. Certainly proud of their effort, but when you have two really quality teams playing, someone's going to walk out with a loss, and it's going to boil down to probably 2 or 3 plays, and that's what happened today.
Hey, Coach. Taylor Kaufman, KMBC 9 here in Kansas City. What would you say you learned about your team, in this game?
I liked our response better today than the last. I thought we had a good response to their runs, and there were a lot of the physicality of the game. I thought that you saw, once again, different players make plays. I thought Kennedy had a really good game down low. I thought that Tamira mixed her game up better today than she has. Against this team, they put so much pressure on you that you've got to be able to make plays. It's not so much a coach's game as much as it is a game where these players have to make plays that you've practiced. And because there's an element of chaos in here that takes some of the plays out. And I thought our group played really, really well today.
Okay, we'll go over here and then we'll come back to you.
Coach, you only played with 8 players today, so kind of 2 questions with that. Was there a reason Sanchez didn't play? And also, do you feel like that contributed to maybe your team running out of steam at the end?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that was just a decision on the lineups that we had. We're playing well, so I don't think so. I thought, they're young. They're young. They can play.
Right here in the front left.
Right, Tamara? Yeah, you're young.
Jeff, 26-7. You guys have had a heck of a year so far at this point. How good is it to know that you all continue to be able to play after this game, and just the sense of pride that you got among your team right now?
Well, I'm really, I've been proud of this group all year. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about is that establishing the new bubble for us is that top 16 group, and that's where we want to be every year, and we're in it right now. And, we're not concerned that we're in the tournament. It's about seeding and those things, and that's where I want the program to be going forward. So I'm proud of this group. We've done a lot of really good things. You asked a minute ago what I learned about this group. There were some lineups on the floor that we hadn't used a lot with the small lineup, and that group played really well together, and I think they kind of found their way at times. So I think going forward, we got a lot to play for. We got a lot here in the next couple of weeks to get better. We feel like we're going to get Lee back. And we know that Lee will add, obviously. I mean, it's an obvious statement when you have a player like Lee. Having said that, I think we found more out about ourselves in the last 6 weeks that we can be a incredibly dangerous team going forward.
That was Coach Jeff Minnie's opening statement and a couple questions following the team's 73-69 loss to West Virginia, eliminating them from a chance of the Big 12 title. But they've got bigger things on their mind. Unfortunately, they might be out. A top 16 seed, aka a top 4 seed, hosting might be out of the question for them after this.
Coach, a minute ago, you brought up that top 16 seed, and you guys feel like you put yourself in position to come Selection Sunday, see your name on one of those lines?
Yeah, well, anybody that watched this game probably says, that this was a heck of a game and it had to go one way. And then I think, as I've said numerous times, we're an interesting case because of missing the preseason player of the year for, I guess now 13 games, whatever the number is. And I think this team's done enough. I think this team's shown that we're a really good basketball team. This one really hurts. Some games, if you don't play well, you don't do things. you walk out of there and it hurts, but not like this. This one hurts. This one comes down to 2 or 3 plays, and everybody's got to say, what could I have done better? And, this team gave everything they had today. We come up on the short end, but I do think we've done enough. And I think that, we'll see where it shakes out. We don't control that part of it. That part's over for us, but we'll see where it shakes out.
And one last bite from head coach Jeff Mittie following the loss today. He talked about how physical the Big 12 is, prompted by a question by that.
Coach Kathleen Geyer from the Next. And then Kennedy, if you have thoughts on this too, but there's been a lot of conversation this weekend about just the physicality of this league. How do you think that helps you guys moving forward and helps kind of grow up those forwards in the absence of Aoka?
Well, the tournaments get more physical and more physical. And today that was probably the difference in the game, in that they got us to about 4 or 5 feet and there were critical rebounds. So we've got to continue to improve that. We'll get better. I thought our group battled, but as the tournament comes, it's going to be that was an NCAA tournament game. And that wasn't a first round game. That was a deep NCAA tournament game. Okay. So you need to understand that was 2 really good teams. That marks, congrats to them. They got a good team. I told our group, we walked out of here last year after beating them by 3. They felt the way we do today. It's not good, but we've had some great games.
Again, that was head coach Jeff Mittie following Kansas State's 73-69 loss to 4-seeded West Virginia as the 5th seed in the Big 12 tournament, ending their tournament run, but not their season. They'll just have to rest up and hope Aoka Lee is ready to go as they'll await selection Sunday. Not this Sunday, next Sunday, the 16th, to hear maybe if they're hosting, maybe there's still an outside shot about that. But if not, where they will travel to for the first and second round of the NCAA tournament. We will come back. One final break to take this hour. We'll come back with my on second thought. That's after this here on 580 Sports Talk.
auctions featuring land, equipment, and more. There's something for everyone. Sullivan Auctioneers full-service auctions makes buying and selling safe, simple, and successful. Backed by a trusted team and a competitive bidding platform, Sullivan Auctioneers delivers the power of online auctions at work. Visit SullivanAuctioneers.com today and join a global marketplace transforming online auctions.
WIBW Topeka.
on second thought, let's not better.
You know, on second thought.
Oh, come on, make up your mind.
Okay. On second thought.
On second thought here, 580 Sports Talk. Spencer Dupuis with you, the youngest in command movement. I really thought, I guess on second thought, I did not think that the Chiefs would have traded Joe Thuney this week. That, if you told me Monday and you were like, hey, by the end of the week, Trey Smith will likely get a long-term deal and Joe Thuney will no longer be on the Chiefs. He's now on the Bears, expected maybe a 2 or 3 year extension there. I would have said you're nuts. He was the team MVP. He took them and he said, I'm going to put the team on my back. I'm going to go, coach. I can go play left tackle for you. I can take it. I can manage what we have to do in order to win the AFC Championship. And there's no AFC Championship without Joe Thuney playing left tackle. I'll say it once. I'll say it again. I'll say it to the masses. The Chiefs do not win the AFC title game if Joe Thuney is not a left tackle. And unfortunately, Joe Thuney's now on the Bears. But you trade age and greatness for a guy about to go into his prime and is just 26 and is about to get a long-term deal. So at the end of the day, I guess I'll take it. That'll do it for this hour of 580 Sports Talk. A quick, 40 minutes of the final hour of the show. We'll start first with sports headlines coming up at the top of the hour. K-State and KU both have Friday Big 12 football games. We'll get into some news and notes around the NFL. I'll give my take more on the Chiefs free agency, and then a final word coming up on 580 Sports Talk, the final hour coming up after the news break. Final 34 minutes here of 580 Sports Talk, the youngest in command movement. Spencer Dupuy with you here for this final 34 minutes before we send it out to Seaman High School as the Lady Vikes take on Coppin Mount St. Carmel. There'll be a 5:40 pregame tip-off set for 6, and then after that, we'll send things up to our old pal, Trenton Craxner. He'll have no more sub-state action as the Rossville Bulldogs take on Mar Hill. That's a 7:30-ish tip. That's tonight here on 580 WIBW. Here's we get ready to get into this hour. We'll have some headlines, NFL news and notes. K-State, KU, they will be playing football on Friday nights once again. And we'll get into some Chiefs free agency, and then I'll have my final word before I send things to Dan Lucero. But again, tonight, it's the 580 Preps Road to a Championship tonight. That's on our airwaves, followed by the Kansas High School Basketball Scoreboard Show from 10 to 11 with Eric Peterson from the Kansas Information Network, which we are the flagship station of. And then if you want to hear some MIAA tournament basketball for Washburn women, they take on Nebraska Kearney. It's a 5:45 pregame show with Brendan Dorzinski. 6 p.m. tip on our sister station, Country 106.9. Busy weekend coming up here on our airwaves as we will have a bunch of stuff going on. We'll have obviously Kansas State men's basketball taking on Iowa State Senior Day. We talked about that at the beginning of last hour. That's 11:30 pregame, 12:30 tip tomorrow. And then we'll have high school state sub-state game tomorrow, 4:45 for a 5 p.m. tip. And then we'll have part of our Westwood 1 coverage of the NCAA tournament. We'll have the OVC championship game from Westwood 1 around 7:45 p.m. Also, if Washburn women's basketball is to advance and beat Nebraska Kearney, they will play tomorrow night, 6 p.m. with a 5:45 pregame show with Brennan Dorzinski on Country 106.9. And if they are going to win again, then they'll play Sunday if necessary. Obviously, if they win in the MIAA final, set for 3:30 with a 3:15 pregame show. Again, that would be on Country 106.9 if Washburn women's basketball wins tonight, and tomorrow night they would play Sunday. Also on the airways right here on 580 WIBW Sunday is again from Westwood 1 on the road to the NCAA tournament, Big South and Missouri Valley Conference Championship doubleheader beginning at 10:45 a.m. with tip-off set for 11 in the Big South game. And then next week, you can expect, I guess we'll be off early Monday as the SoCon Championship, and Tuesday we'll be off early, I guess, with the CAA and West Coast Conference Championships. That's all from the Westwood 1, our coverage of pre-NCAA tournament games. A lot going on next week. High school basketball state tournament. We will reveal things as we can. And then for Washburn men next weekend, the Central Region Tournament, which all signs point to being held down at Lee Arena on the campus of Washburn University. Also, the Big 12 men's tournament next week. See how much coverage we can get from there, as well as I mentioned the state basketball tournament with the Kansas High School Basketball Scoreboard Show nightly starting Wednesday night through Saturday night. But let's get into some headlines here. We'll start with some local football or local college headlines here as we get to Kansas football and Kansas State football. Let me pull up the releases here, and then we'll discuss the other Big 12 ones as well as I pull things up. I thought I had it pulled up, but I had the wrong page up. But the Big 12 and their broadcast entities announced that they're going to hold Friday night football games once again. And a game that is no stranger to Friday nights will once again be on Friday nights. The Big 12 Conference and its television partners announced today that Kansas State's non-conference game at Arizona, again, that part of the non-conference deal before Arizona joined the Big 12, they're just keeping it. That game originally set for Saturday, September 13th, will now be played Friday, September 12th, just like this last year. when it was on, I believe, the Fox Friday night game. The release says it'll either be on ESPN or Fox. The game time and network designation will be announced at a later date. It'll be the 8th time in school history they'll play. They'll play in Tucson for the first time since they defeated Wyoming in the 93 Copper Bowl. K-State won the battle last season again. That was the first game of the home-and-home non-conference game that was scheduled before Arizona joined the Big 12. K-State won that game 31-9. If you want more information, go to kstatesports.com. And over for Kansas, let me double check here on this one as well. Yep. This is a conference game, the new David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium. The regular season finale against Utah has been moved to Friday, November 28th from Saturday, November 29th. The Big 12 announced today. Kickoff and TV designations will be again announced at a later date, either Fox or on ESPN. Also, it'll be the second Friday night game for K-State as they'll take on Wagner, the FCS game. That'll be Friday, August 29th, likely on ESPN Plus, just like their Friday night FCS game against Lindenwood was this past season. Looking at other games flexed to Friday night, Georgia Tech at Colorado on Friday, August 28th. Again, also Auburn at Baylor, big non-con weekend. And then Colorado at Houston, the 12th, along with K-State at Arizona. September 18th to that'd be the 19th. Tulsa at Oklahoma State. And let me get this graphic a little bigger as I give you the list. No, it is gone. Okay. Then Friday, September 26th, TCU at Arizona State. Friday, October 3rd, West Virginia at BYU, which that was already announced when they announced the season slate. And then Friday, November 7th, Houston at UCF. And Friday, November 28th, it'll also be, in addition to the Utah at Kansas game, Arizona State will take place that night. Again, I'm assuming one's going to be on ESPN whenever there's two games, and the other will be on Fox if they're those 3 weeks where they have 3 games slate or 2 games slated each. That's why they haven't announced yet, because Fox obviously has that Friday night coverage that they have started. That's also, I believe, Big Ten as well. All right, moving on to NFL news and notes from from ESPN.com. Lions and linebacker Derek Barnes have reached a new 3-year contract extension worth $25.5 million. Sources told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler with $16 million of that deal fully guaranteed at signing. Barnes was limited to just 3 games last season after suffering a knee injury in Week 3. Their win over the Cardinals was the first time in his 4-year NFL career that he failed to play at least 15 games. With that move, the Lions are committed to another one of their foundational players from the beginning of general manager Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell's Detroit tenure in 2021. And again, he was a guy that was part of their long laundry list of players that was on the IR for most of the season that everybody kind of looked back to and when like, well, this is why they didn't, because their linebacker core and their defensive line core was basically all on the injured reserve the entire season. And imagine a team that comes back like they were this past season, but with healthy guys on the defensive line as well as the linebacker core. Detroit also on Friday agreed to re-sign veteran linebacker Anthony Pittman. Sources told Fowler Pittman played for the Lions from 19 to 23 before joining the Commanders in 24 and then the Jaguars. He returned to the Lions in December. He was signed off the Jags practice squad. They also locked down their core with Jack Campbell and Alex Alazani. The new Lions defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard previously coached linebackers, so obviously that's going to be huge for them. But a deal gets done to keep players with their team before the legal tampering period begins Monday. Another deal, a bigger deal, I think. The Bills and linebacker Terrell Bernard have agreed to a 4-year, $50 million extension to keep one of their team captains around for the foreseeable future. That extension will keep him there through 2029. His new deal is worth $50 million with $25.2 million fully guaranteed. The NFL Network was the first to report this deal. Bernard is the second member of the team's 2022 draft class to have been taken care of on a long-term deal. He joins receiver Khalil Shakir, who officially signed his own 4-year extension Monday. So they continue to keep their own in Buffalo. They've also there's also other members of the draft class eligible for an extension. Running back James Cook and cornerback Christian Benford. Those guys expect maybe to get re-signed as well. We've got some trimming of rosters and cap savings before Monday or before free agency begins. The Titans have released outside linebacker Harold Landry III. The move saves the Titans $10.9 million in cap space, but increases to $17.5 if Tennessee designates release as a post-June 1 release. He led the Titans with 9 sacks last season, posted 15 tackles for loss and 15 quarterback hits in 17 starts. It was his third consecutive season with at least 9 sacks, including a career-high 12 in 2021. He signed a 5-year, $87 million contract in 2022. He tore his ACL and missed in the preseason that year, missed all of 22. He returned in 23 and finished second on the Titans with 10.5 sacks. And, he might be a guy where they're like, let's get ahead of this a year early. I think that's what a lot of these signings are, or these cuts are, is he's 28, but maybe he's going to regress. You never know, right? They're going to get some cap savings here, but he's done well the last few years, but I think he might be a guy they're like, well, what are we doing? We want some young guys. We're obviously in the rebuilding mode. We'll see. And obviously it's expected that they're going to get Abdul Carter as they have the number 1 pick in this year's draft. So you're going to expect the guy to go from college to starting, and that's him. Might as well cut bait, save some money so you can sign guys elsewhere if you have the ability to. Another one near and dear to my heart, as the Commanders have released defensive tackle Jonathan Allen ahead of free agency. The 2-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle was released on Friday. The move ends the 8-year relationship after the Commanders failed to find a trade partner for Allen. According to some sources, he was actually in a trade that didn't actually get completed for Deebo Samuel. One of the original drafts of the trade had him going there along with the pick swap. Earlier this month, the team had granted Allen permission to seek a trade after telling him they weren't going to be able to extend his contract. He's entering the final year of his deal with $15.5 million base salary, but no more money guaranteed. Sources said a handful of teams expressed interest in Allen, but anticipated his release and felt they could sign him to a more desirable deal. By releasing Allen, Washington saved $16.3 million in cap space. They drafted defensive tackle Jazan Newton last season in the second round alongside Daron Payne. During the 9 games Allen missed, he missed time with a torn pec this season. The injury was initially said to be season-ending, but during the surgery, doctors discovered the tear was not as severe as feared, so he did return. Played in the final 2 regular season games and 3 preseason contests. He finished with 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 7 quarterback hits. So that has to, if you're a potential team out there who he could sign as early as, I guess, tomorrow when you get the 24-hour or you start it as he's cut today. But you look at those last 3 games and you're like, yeah, he can do some things maybe, but I think the Commanders did the right thing here. They let him go early. They could have just made him a post-June 1 cut. Obviously, Allen has been a pillar of this team. He's been there for the bad times. He got to see the beginning of the great times. But unfortunately, he will not be on the team any longer, as they have cut the 2-time Pro Bowler. And depending on money he could be a guy you maybe see the Chiefs go after. He's a durable guy. If they don't want to go and bring back some of the guys that the Chiefs have, obviously we talked about the free agency list at the defensive line. But depending on where things fall, he's not going to be that well desired. If they don't want to bring Turk Wharton back, maybe they take a swing at John Allen, see what he can do on a 1-year prove-it deal. You got Chris Jones locked up. Depending on what the market is for Jonathan Allen, maybe he comes to Kansas City. I heard the Vikings were maybe looking into him, but if, obviously that defensive line rotates so much with Chris Jones, getting older in age, and, Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell getting there as well. Maybe he's a guy that you try to sign if you don't bring back Turk Wharton. Again, have to see what the market is. I don't anticipate him signing before Monday, before the tampering period begins. But who knows? We'll see what happens there. Let's move on to the next NFL headline here. Staying with the defensive line, and specifically one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. The headline from ESPN.com, source, Browns owner declines meeting with Myles Garrett. Cleveland Browns owner Jimmy Haslam recently declined a request to meet with Myles Garrett amid the star pass rusher's trade request, the league source confirmed to ESPN today. NFL Network first reported that Haslam declined Garrett's request to meet and directed him to speak instead with general manager Andrew Berry, who oversees football ops. A Browns spokesman declined to comment. The development comes with both sides dug in on their stances. Garrett wishes to be traded to a contender, and the Browns adamant they will not relinquish him and are not going to go against their request. He first requested a trade in early February, saying the Browns' future is not aligned with winning right now. Source also said Garrett is not open to a contract extension with the team. Berry reiterated at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis last week that he does not intend to trade Garrett, the 2023 Defensive Player of the Year. Browns coach Kevin Stefanski later said Garrett is, quote, part of the present. He's part of the future, end quote. Garrett, the 6-time Pro Bowler and 4-time All-Pro selection, has 2 years remaining on a record-breaking 5-year, $125 million contract extension he signed in 2020, but there's no more guaranteed salary. In 8 seasons, Garrett, who's 29, still on the other side of the front side of 30, has made the playoffs twice. The Browns 3-14 finish in 2024 was the worst since going 0-16 in 2017, Garrett's rookie year. And the team holds the 2nd overall pick in the draft. And I don't understand why they don't want to go after what his request is. Like why not? He doesn't want to be there. He's probably not going to play. I don't get it. If the guy doesn't want to play there, he's not going to play. Why don't you go and try to find a trade partner? As I guess I did leave the video on this. My fault. Where we had 24 minutes of action, or 20 minutes of action without that. Let's see. What other headlines do we have here before we take the break? Oh, a former player, the Las Vegas Raiders released wide receiver Michael Gallup from their reserve injured list as the 29-year-old intends to make a comeback in the NFL in 2025. He abruptly retired a day before the start of Raiders training camp last year. His decision to step away from football after he had signed a 1-year deal worth as much as $3 million with the Raiders last April 30th. He participated in OTAs and minicamp before Gallup joined the Raiders to compete for the team's number 3 wide receiver spot. He was released by Dallas, where he had spent 6 seasons, and he had totaled 266 catches for 3,744 yards and 21 touchdowns. Be interesting to see what he's got left in the tank. Obviously, he tore his ACL in his left knee in late 2021. The Cowboys signed him to a 5-year, $57.5 million deal in 2022, but he was unable to regain the form that saw him with a 15.5 yards per catch mark at one point in his career. And he's still 29 as well. And it's an interesting thing for him to decide to come out of his brief retirement with just the amount of receivers that are on the open market this year. And a guy that hasn't played football in 1 year, that hasn't really been a guy that's been to his great form. I'm somewhat interested to see. I mean, the last 3 years in Dallas, starting in 21, obviously he talked about the injury in 21, but he didn't, since his 843 yards back in 2020, he hasn't eclipsed 500. He had 445 in 21 before he tore his ACL. Then he had 424 when he came back the next year. And then he had 418 in 23 before signing with the Raiders and then abruptly retiring before the start of the season. So Michael Gallup coming back to the NFL could be interesting with a large road in front of him. Let's see what we got. I think that'll do it for this headline segment here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we will talk Chiefs free agency. The legal tampering period begins Monday, as where teams can start talking to all free agents before free agency officially starts, and contracts can be officially signed a few days later, but they can agree to contracts. Chiefs got a few of their own guys that they need to maybe lock down before we talk about them signing guys. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break. You're listening to 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Youngest in command movement continues here on 580 Sports Talk. Spencer Dupuy with you here as we've got just one more segment before we hit the final word and then send things out to Seaman High School for girls sub-state action. But that's coming up here in a little bit. Let's get into some Chiefs free agency talk here before we hit our look ahead. On Friday, the Chiefs made contract tenders to two of their exclusive free agents, punter Matt Ariza and offensive lineman Mike Caliendo. Obviously, Caliendo came in and played guard a little bit when Joe Thuney moved to left tackle. Each has been offered a contract at league minimum for credited seasons. For Ariza, that's $960,000. For Caliendo, that's $1.03 million. The contract tender ties the player's rights to the team for the upcoming season. The overwhelmingly majority of ERFAs sign these tenders. Looking at what the Chiefs have to do in free agency, obviously they've got a lot to do before they want to retain their guys before the start of legal tampering period. Just go through the guys that are going to be free agents here. We'll start on the offense and then go to defense. Carson Wentz, probably going to get a different guy as your backup quarterback. Wentz might find himself going somewhere, or he might come back. Who knows? I mean, he didn't really do anything great in the game against the Broncos in order to say, hey, I want to compete for a starting spot somewhere else. Running back Kareem Hunt, running back Samaje P. Ryan, receivers Marquise Hollywood Brown, McCole Hardman, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson, tight end Jody Fortson, offensive tackle DJ Humphries, edge rushers Charles Omenihu, Josh Uche, defensive lineman Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell, Marlon Putuli, and Tershawn Wharton, linebacker Nick Bolton, safety Justin Reed, and long snapper James Winchester. I think James Winchester, you're going to sign him. He's been solid. He'll get the deal that he's going to get. But, I mean, I think on the offensive side, you're just going to see what you can do. I wouldn't be surprised if they re-sign one of the other between Hunt and P. Ryan. Obviously, both had made themselves great in great moments. Then I expect Hollywood Brown to come back. I don't expect DeAndre Hopkins or Juju back. I think McCole Hardman's time with the Chiefs is done. Maybe they have another reunion with Jody Fortson. Who knows? We got a texter in saying that Carson Wentz has already been released. No, he just signed a 1-year deal and he's not he's a free agent upcoming, but they could bring him back. That's what I said. The 785 telling me he's been released. I don't believe he's been released because he was on a 1-year contract that is expiring, and he can make discussions with teams as early as Monday's legal tampering period. Obviously, DJ Humphries might be brought back just as a depth piece for that offensive tackle position because what are they going to do? They might just bring him back on a 1-year deal around the vet minimum a little more because, I mean, he didn't show enough to get, I don't think he'll get signed by anybody else. And then that defensive line room, we talked about that a little bit. Charles Omenihu, you're not letting Josh Uche come back. He barely played at all. He's not good. But that defensive line, specifically playing DL, Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell, Marlon Teotupu, and Tershawn Wharton, I think you're bringing at least one of those guys back. And then the biggest two spots are Nick Bolton and Justin Reed. Dan's been hitting the hammer on the head the whole time about bringing Nick Bolton back. I think that probably happens. I mean, Spags has been saying how important he is to that team. I think he comes back. Maybe he tests the water. I'm not certain. And he takes a hometown discount to come back to the Chiefs. But unless they get, a 23rd hour contract done before Monday's legal tampering period. And Justin Reed's such an interesting case, right? Like, he's a guy he's a big locker room guy, but he's also a guy that, as many see, is replaceable. I mean, you could potentially move Brian Cook to his spot or even Jaden Hicks. You're gonna draft or sign depth guys, but Jaden Hicks proved a lot, and I think he could prove to maybe fill in, and maybe you do let Justin Reed go. But that's to be determined. Obviously, you hope the Chiefs bring back as many guys and make improvements with their little cap space we'll find out Monday when we have the legal tampering period. We'll sure there'll be lots to break down coming up on Monday's show. Let's take our final timeout before we hit the final word. This is 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW.
Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
WIBW, Topeka.
One more thing. In conclusion, you better wrap it up.
Final word time here on 580 Sports Talk. Final word for the week. Final word before the legal tampering period begins in the NFL Monday. And before we get back on the show Monday, the Chiefs could lose a few guys to free agency than you'd really want to. But unfortunately, the NFL is a business, and Nick Bolton might not be a Chief on Monday. Justin Reed might not be a Chief on Monday. Although I hope both of them return because they do have great upside at their positions. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We got 580 Preps Road to a Championship coming up next as Dan Lucero and the Coach Larry Latimer will be on the call as the Seaman Lady Vikes host Compton Mount Carmel. That's coming up next here on 580 WIBW. For Brennan Dorzinski, Dan Lucero, I'm Spencer Dupuis saying so long. 580 Preps Road to a Championship coming up next year on 580 WIBW. Have a great rest of your night, everyone, and weekend.